How do you lose $1.75 billion in 6 months? Not by accident. Not through a single bad decision. You do it by raising more money than almost any media startup in history. You do it by hiring the most powerful executives from Hollywood and Silicon Valley. You do it with A-list stars, Super Bowl ads, and a revolutionary idea. An idea that absolutely nobody asked for. This isn't just a story about a failed company. It's a story about how some of the smartest people in the world can be spectacularly, colossally wrong. In August of 2018, a new company was born from an almost unimaginable pedigree. It was led by Jeffrey Katzenberg, the legendary former chairman of Walt Disney Studios and CEO of DreamWorks Animation. His co-pilot was Meg Whitman, the former CEO of eBay and Hewlett-Packard. They called their venture Quibi, short for Quick Bites. The concept was simple, yet audacious. They would create high-end, Hollywood-quality shows, but deliver them in chapters of 10 minutes or less, designed exclusively for your phone. They raised an astonishing $1.75 billion before they had a single subscriber. Backers included Disney, Warner Brothers, and Sony. The plan was to revolutionize entertainment for people on the go. For the moments in between. The subway ride. The line for coffee. With that much money, that much talent, and that much industry backing, failure seemed impossible. Yet, within 6 months of its launch, Quibi was completely shut down. So how did an idea backed by titans of industry, with a war chest larger than many Hollywood studios, become one of the most expensive and catastrophic failures in modern media history? That's the question we're unlocking today. To understand the fall of Quibi, we have to dissect the 4 foundational flaws in its strategy. Each flaw was a crack in the foundation. Together, they guaranteed the entire structure would collapse. Quibi's entire reason for being was built on a single assumption, that people had unfilled in-between moments and were desperate for premium, short-form content to fill them. On the surface, it makes sense. People are on their phones constantly. But Katzenberg and Whitman fundamentally misunderstood what people do in those moments. Those quick 10-minute gaps are not empty voids waiting for a new form of media. They are already a fiercely competitive battlefield. When you have a few minutes, you scroll through TikTok, Instagram, or Twitter. You reply to a text. You listen to a podcast or play a mobile game. These existing habits have 2 things in common. They are mostly free, and they are socially driven. You can share a meme, retweet a thought, or see what your friends are up to. Quibi entered this arena with a high-production, $9 a month, non-social product. It was a paid, isolated experience designed to compete with free, connected ecosystems. They weren't just competing with Netflix or YouTube. They were competing with every other app on your phone. They created an expensive, premium solution for a problem that users had already solved for themselves, for free. Jeffrey Katzenberg's Hollywood connections were Quibi's superpower. They spent over $1 billion on original content, attracting names like Steven Spielberg, Jennifer Lopez, and Liam Hemsworth. They produced dramas, comedies, reality shows, and news programs. On paper, the library was impressive. In practice, it was a strategic disaster. First, the 10-minute format was a creative straitjacket. It forced storytellers to create artificially high stakes at the end of every quick bite, leading to jarring and unsatisfying narratives. It was neither a complete story, like a movie, nor a deep dive, like a traditional TV episode. It was a strange, disjointed hybrid. Second, and more critically, Quibi launched with an entire library of new and unknown intellectual property. Think about how streaming services win customers. Netflix didn't become a giant by launching with original shows. It did so by building a massive, licensed back catalog of movies and TV shows you already knew and loved. The Office and Friends were the hooks. The originals came later. Quibi had no comfort food content. It asked customers to pay for a library where they recognized the actors, but not a single show title. It was a massive gamble on the hope that their original content was good enough to build an entire platform from scratch. It wasn't. Beyond the content, the technology itself was fundamentally misguided. It was built on assumptions about how the creators thought people should watch, rather than how they actually do. The marquee feature was called Turnstile. This technology allowed you to seamlessly switch between horizontal and vertical viewing, with the picture perfectly framed in either orientation. It was a technically impressive feat that required creators to essentially shoot everything twice. The problem? It was a gimmick. A solution in search of a problem. Viewers didn't care. It added no tangible value to the experience. Worse than the gimmick, however, were the app's restrictions. In an era defined by memes, viral clips, and social media, Quibi made a fatal decision. They blocked the ability to take screenshots. They wanted to protect their premium content from piracy. What they actually did was sever their only lifeline to organic marketing. A show's most shocking or hilarious moment couldn't be shared. It couldn't become a meme. It couldn't generate buzz on Twitter or Instagram. TikTok's entire growth model is built on making its content as easy to share as possible. Quibi built a walled garden, and then seemed surprised when nobody knew what was growing inside. They cut themselves off from the very culture they were trying to be a part of. Quibi launched in April of 2020. This was the absolute peak of the global COVID-19 lockdowns. The company's marketing, including a multi-million-dollar Super Bowl ad, was centered on watching content on the go. But suddenly, no one was on the go. The entire world was stuck at home, on the couch, in front of their televisions. The core value proposition of Quibi, content for your in-between moments, evaporated overnight. Their mobile-only strategy, which prevented streaming to a TV, suddenly looked not just misguided, but completely disconnected from reality. It's tempting to blame the pandemic for Quibi's failure. And it was certainly the final nail in the coffin. But it wasn't the cause of death. It was merely an accelerant. The pandemic didn't create Quibi's problems. It simply exposed them, all at once, in the most brutal way imaginable. The flawed premise, the unknown content, and the restrictive app were all terminal conditions. The lockdown just hastened the inevitable. So, what is the single secret behind this $1.75 billion failure? It's this: Quibi was a product built for a customer that did not exist. It wasn't one bad decision. It was a cascade of flawed assumptions, each built on top of the last. They assumed people had a problem, unfilled downtime, that needed a premium solution. They were wrong. They assumed that Hollywood stars and production value were enough to make people pay for unknown shows. They were wrong. They assumed they could dictate a new user behavior, mobile only, no sharing, and that people would adopt it. They were spectacularly wrong. Their aha moment is realizing that Quibi's failure wasn't about bad timing or poor execution. The company was doomed from its conception. It was the result of two brilliant, successful leaders from old guard industries, Hollywood and enterprise tech, believing they could impose their vision on a new media world without first stopping to understand the user. They built a beautiful, expensive, and technically complex answer to a question that nobody was asking. If that insight helps you see business strategy a little more clearly, take a moment to hit the like button and subscribe to Strategy Unlocked. Your support helps us keep digging into these fascinating stories. The story of Quibi is more than just a spectacular failure. It's a masterclass in the dangers of top-down innovation. It's a cautionary tale about what happens when you fall in love with your own solution, instead of falling in love with the customer's problem. The broader business principle is one of humility. In the digital age, the user is in control. Their habits, their communities, and their desire to share are the most powerful forces in media. You cannot dictate culture to them with a big budget. You have to participate in it. Quibi proves that no amount of money or experience can save a product that ignores the fundamental needs and behaviors of its audience. It's a $1.75 billion reminder that before you build the next big thing, you must first ask, is this something people actually want? If you learn something new, hit the like button and subscribe for more strategy breakdowns. And let us know in the comments, what company's strategy should we unlock next?